Ladies and gentlemen, it is an incredible opportunity for us to share with you a little about Ray Cramer this afternoon. Now, the three of us have divided things up in a very logical way, with me presenting Ray's career, focusing on his Indiana University responsibilities, Terry presenting Ray's many leadership accomplishments and awards, and Jay presenting Ray as a person and a family man. And that's all very logical, but very difficult, since the message of Ray's life and career is that he is able somehow to combine all of those aspects into a package that worked really well and served as an inspiration to all of us who had a chance to know him. I had the opportunity to work side by side with Ray for 21 years at Indiana University. And during that time, I learned how to be a college professor, conductor, by watching him as I imagined he watched his mentor, Frederick Adams. I saw how committed he was to excellence in all that he did, whether it was rehearsing, teaching a class, writing a recommendation letter, or making plans for an important concert. He gave everything a great deal of thought, planning concerts with great care, writing, proofing any correspondence he had to make sure that it was all very well done and reflected impeccably on our department. When I first arrived at IU, it was the beginning of several years of growth and change. I watched Ray's compassion firsthand when dealing with difficult personnel issues in our department. I watched his vision come to fruition as we established a wind conducting program that has become one of the most celebrated in the nation. As the wind conducting program grew, it increased our workloads quite a bit, and Ray undertook a teaching schedule that was far beyond what colleagues at many comparable institutions would even consider doing. At the same time, as everyone knows, he did not diminish his guest conducting schedule and took on leadership positions outside the university setting. He was able to do this with his tremendous energy and ability to focus on the work at hand. He also somehow kept a complete rehearsal schedule on campus, at times running quickly to the airport to make the plane just in time so that he would not have to cancel the rehearsal. Ray was the champion of efficient packing to avoid checking in baggage. In spite of his busy schedule, he maintained our departmental open door policy. It was not unusual for him to be visited by students who needed help or advice during the day. They would knock, walk in, and be helped. Some people might say that the IU Jacobs School of Music contains some faculty members who have egos reminiscent of the mountains in the west that Ray and Molly have enjoyed climbing over the years. He was able to work with and somehow deal with them to enhance the work of our department. At the same time, although Ray was as well known as anyone on the international circuit, he was able to remain approachable and treated people with respect and dignity. That is what drew so many people to him. For quite a few years, Ray conducted not only his wonderful wind ensemble on campus, but also one of the orchestras in the School of Music stable of orchestras. He had great success. Now, this meant rehearsing many days in the fall from 2:30 until after 6 o'clock, but he had the energy and musicianship to make it work beautifully. He always maintained a close relationship with not only the Marching 100, current, but also the many members of the alumni band, and was able to identify with many generations of loyal alums who felt close to him, even if he had not been their marching band director. He had an ability to relate to them all. Ray was a fantastic role model on balancing work and family, and any number of times I would go to the office on the weekend or the evening and find that he was already there and had been there for a long time before going on to one of Heather or Jared's activities. He would come back to the office at night after the kids were in bed, so he didn't miss out on being with them. He and Molly would travel together as much as possible. They even gave a joint clinic session at the Midwest for that everyone, I'm sure, remembers. There was always a strong effort to make family a priority, even when he was already one of the busiest people on campus. I also must mention his integrity and faith, because when you work with a colleague for a while, you know how they handle themselves and how they handle stress. Do they follow through on promises? Do they spend money according to the guidelines? Do they go the extra mile to speak directly with others to ensure good communication? Do they put the needs of the students and the school before their own personal needs and desires? With Ray Cramer, the answer to all those questions was yes. Over the years, people would ask me why I didn't go somewhere else to have my own program and all of that. The explanation didn't take long. was understood immediately. And I would just say, where else could I work with a colleague who is so fair and good to work with on a daily basis? Everyone who knows Ray understands. Over the years, Ray has received many honors, including this distinguished membership in this Hall of Fame. But one of his greatest prizes must remain the legacy he has earned as a mentor, teacher, conductor, who is treasured by his students over the generations because they knew he cared about them. Jay?
As I stand here today, I cannot fully explain what an honor it is to speak at this occasion about my teacher, mentor, and friend. Next to my own parents and my wife and family, Ray and Molly Cramer have had the greatest impact on my life. Through the years, I have had a hard time calling him Ray. Even though he will always be Mr. Cramer to me, he has been the father I never had. And he and Molly are like grandparents to my 4 children. Ray and Molly were and are family to the Gepharts. Ray Cramer grew up in Knoxville, Illinois, and he attended Western Illinois University and University of Iowa. He was a fine trombone player, but one of the most important things I've always enjoyed about Ray Cramer is his competitive spirit. Ray Cramer was an athlete in high school and has always felt at home on the basketball court, football field, or racquetball court as much as he did on the podium. The one trait that set him apart from the average School of Music faculty member, Ray seemed like a real person. Ray Cramer was not the virtuoso performer like the many who walked the halls at IU, nor was he the dominating personality who was bigger than life. He was a real person with a heart, mind, and soul that put him in a position to inspire others to reach levels of success and peace of mind that we could never dream of reaching ourselves. Ray Cramer has always been a humble, private man who selflessly has given his life to make other people's lives better. While hired to be a band director throughout his career, Ray never stopped at something like that. He taught life throughout his career. All the hundreds of students Ray Cramer taught knew that when he retired, it did not signify an end to his lifelong commitment to teaching. With Ray, there was never an end to anything. His ability to always be about what's next, always about the future, enables him to lead an incredibly active, constructive, positive, and contributing life to this very day. Whether it was in the rehearsal room or on the racquetball court or playing basketball in his backyard, Ray had something to teach you. When it came to racquetball, however, I think it would be better stated that Ray schooled you as opposed to taught you. Ray Cramer is still my band director in so many ways. And just as if it were in 1976 and I was a high school freshman in the all-county band in Crawfordsville, Indiana, he's there with me every day, pushing, shaping, molding, challenging, and inspiring me to be better. Now as then, this is not done in an overbearing fashion, but always in the lowest key imaginable. Ray Cramer teaches by example. He never asks or expects anyone to do anything that he hasn't already done himself. He teaches by creating an environment that people want to be part of, where we want what he has to give. And teach he did, from showing us how to warm up a band to how to conduct with skill and beauty, to how to build a foundation in our personal lives based on the human values and personal characteristics that are embodied in the way Ray and Molly Cramer live their lives. Throughout every week, I and my fellow colleagues ask ourselves how Mr. Cramer would have handled a situation, a discipline problem, a conducting issue, or a problem at home. But Ray never lived life alone. Ray and his wife Molly are a team in every sense of the word. Ray and Molly gave us the necessary tools to overcome adversity and obstacles that they knew from the beginning were always part of our lives. They taught us how to live a life of honesty and integrity in a world where those traits are harder and harder to find. They taught us priorities, always placing faith and family before work. They taught us about commitment, what a beautiful, loving marriage could look like. They taught us about family, about the importance of taking family vacations, building family traditions, and taking time for kids. My late wife and I, and many, many others throughout the years, have looked to the Cramers as role models for virtually everything in life. Whatever Ray set out to teach, it was done in the most subtle ways. While our rehearsals were the most demanding endeavors that I've ever been a part of, there was always a sense of joy, of celebration, and of people having fun playing music. Always positive, always constructive, Ray Cramer drove us in ways and directions that we were not aware of, always with the goal of making us better. It was never about him, but always about striving for musical perfection and personal development within the framework of the band. For Ray and Molly, they taught by example, and through it all, lived life with love and grace. We, all of the students, could always tell that Ray and Molly cared about us, and in turn, we cared for them. I would go so far as to say that their students loved Ray and Molly. Not in a way that you might love a movie or a sweater or something like that. I mean, we genuinely love them. When Ray and Molly's daughter Heather was tragically killed in 2009, we all grieved alongside the family as if we had lost our sister. As the Lord uses pain and suffering for his own glory, Ray and Molly endured these days, weeks, and months following Heather's death, and one thing remained true: Ray and Molly's testimony and their faith and trust in God. In his retirement, Ray Cramer is happier, more positive, and more upbeat than ever. There's not a bit of cynicism, not an ounce of bitterness, absolutely no jealousy or envy. He is still the same teacher, the same positive force, the person who we would all like to become. Ray Cramer also represents the greatest example of sacrifice, hard work, and commitment to achievement over some pipe dream that someone will just give you something. The joy and happiness of his life comes today, as it always has, from the success of others. Terry?
If you look at any Hall of Fame presentations in any organization, at some point there's a list of statistics of that person's career. One thing we know about statistics is that the more you reduce a situation to its statistics, the less it represents reality. For instance, if you put Molly in a room with Shaquille O'Neal, the average height of the person is about 6'6", which doesn't represent either woman. Statistically true, but perhaps not representative of reality. So while Ray's list of accomplishments is long and noteworthy, it is only one picture of him and perhaps doesn't give us the most accurate view. Still, it is important to examine his record. He has received literally every award that is possible to receive, including, and I'm just highlighting a few, Christian International Instrumental Directors Association Director of the Year Award in 1988, Phi Beta Mu International Assembly Outstanding Bandmaster Award in 1988, Kappa Kappa Psi Distinguished Service to Music Award 1988, Doctor of Humane Letters Honoris Causa Western Illinois University Hall of Honor 1991, Music for All Bands of America Hall of Fame 2006, 17th Japan Academic Society of Winds Percussion and Band Award, National Band Association AWAPA Award, and the John Painter Lifetime Achievement Award. He's also served as an officer in almost every major band organization, including president of the Big Ten Band Directors Association, president of the Indiana Bandmasters Association, president of the College Band Directors National Association, and president of the American Bandmasters Association. But is all of that an accurate representation of the person we are honoring today? I don't believe so. Let me take you back to the fall of 1970, before all of the awards, before all of the leadership responsibilities, to the first time I met Ray. He was in his second year in Indiana, the director of the Marching 100. As we gathered on the field that first day as freshmen, the one thing that we noticed immediately was Mr. Cramer's infectious energy, his ready smile, his uncompromising standards, downright scary for an 18-year-old for Southern Indiana. And most impressive, that he already seemed to know each of us by name, and that was also scary because you couldn't get by with anything. You know who you were. He also seemed to be everywhere at once. If you looked up, he was on the ladder, but if you turned your head for a second, he was right beside you. We learned very quickly that we had to give our very best every second because that was what he was going to do, and he expected the same from us. I can well remember being able to play parts perfectly, and in rehearsal he would point to me and say, "Austin, play that." and I would just fold. And it always made me mad because I felt like I was letting him down, but I knew I could play it. I just couldn't play it when he pointed at me. But I'm sure no one else is ever experiencing it. As we got to know him and he got to know us as more than names, we gradually began to be invited to his house for basketball or just informal gatherings. We met Molly and the kids, and it was natural to feel like a part of the family. What we didn't know then is something his son Jer shared with me recently. Ray would work all day, go home for dinner and family time, and when the kids were in bed, he would return to the office and finish working. Work is important, but not more important than spending time with his family. He told me once that even in the early days of his career, he would always block out 2 weekends every month for his family. So when he got other guest conducting opportunities, he could say, no, those dates are already booked on my calendar. You know, I thought, you know, at the time, well, that's easy for you. You're Ray Cramer. They're always going to invite you again. But that just wasn't always true. Those were always hard decisions to make. It also became apparent as I got to know Ray that he would be a permanent part of my life. He drove 11 hours to my wedding. I don't know about you, but I've never done that for one of my students. In the days before email, when I was at the University of Hawaii working on my master's degree, I got regular letters from Ray, and they were always newsy and personal and handwritten, sometimes typed. I still have every one of them. And I just recently found them all and reread them. Gradually Ray became my guiding star. When I'm faced with difficult decisions, as the two of them said, whether it's personal or professional, my wife will always say to me, what would Ray do? And I know from what they said, I'm not the only one that gets that question. When Mr. Epps retired, Ray became the director of bands. The responsibilities were great, but the opportunities were even greater. Ray wanted to showcase the work he and Mr. Epps had been doing. The Symphonic Wind Ensemble turned up on CBDNA, ABA, MENC, and Midwest programs, and they began to appear internationally. The fine groups that people at Indiana University had been proud of all along began to attract a lot of acclaim. And this man from Iowa began to have an enormous impact on the band world that continues to this day. The measure of a teacher is how they change their students, and by that measure, Ray has had a profoundly positive effect on those of us lucky enough to call him teacher. So the man that we are honoring this afternoon certainly does have amazing career accomplishments. That is why he's being inducted. But for those of us who honor him every day, it is all of the things that are not on his resume that are important. And my guess is that the most significant part of this very special day to him is that his picture will go on the same wall with his friend and mentor, Pratt. Would you please join us in welcoming Ray and Molly to the stage?
Words really are difficult right now. It's one of those things that you just don't think will ever happen to you. And when I was here in 1987 to be the presenter for Professor Epps, little did I know that, some years later that would be an opportunity for me to stand here. And I will be brief. I do have lots of people to thank, but I want to thank, first of all, this lady right here, because this year we're celebrating our 50th anniversary.
That was a child bride.
It's amazing that she stuck with me all these years, because when we met, and a week later, I asked her out for a cup of coffee. This was at the University of Iowa. So that was on a Thursday night. We went out for coffee, and it went pretty well. And on Friday night, I took her to see the movie The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. That didn't go quite as well. And on Saturday night, we went out for a hamburger and decided we were going to get married. And it's worked out okay. People always ask Molly, are you a musician? And she always says, well, no, but I accompany and applaud. She accompanies me everywhere I go and applauds everything that I do. So what more could anyone ask than having a wife that would be that accommodating and that lovely, and what a wonderful person she is. And I want to thank her for 50 great years, dear. Thank you very much. I'm very fortunate to have my two sisters here. One sister with her husband, Helen Eklund, and her husband, Gene. Raise your hands. And my sister, Marilyn, and her son, Mark. And Molly's sister, Mary Capps, and her husband, Ron. And it was obvious, you know, that because they're now RC, and of course we're RC, so it worked out really well for the whole family. But I have to thank my sisters, and you can notice that the hair is pretty similar all the way through the family. But I literally wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for my sisters. They literally saved my life twice when I was young. Once from drowning. I thought at a young age that I could just run off the end of the dock and jump into the lake with no problem, even though I didn't know how to swim. And my sister happened to see me jump into the lake off the dock and came storming out of the changing room where she was putting her suit on and jumped in and saved me. I didn't ever ask if she actually had her suit on yet or not. And the other time I grew up on a farm, and I opened the door of the barn, and I didn't know that my father had put two old sows having pigs in there, and this one old mother didn't like the fact that I opened up the door and started chasing me across the barn lot. And but my feet were getting stuck in the mud, and I kept getting slower and slower, and the pig kept getting faster and faster. And they reached over the fence, picked me up, and threw me over the fence and saved me. So thank you very much. But seriously, I want to thank, I've been so blessed by so many things. Our family, the job that I had, but more of a great blessing of this fantastic students. And to have these gentlemen as former students make the presentation was very special to me, and I want to thank them very much because they were also part of the application process to get me here. So gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And all the students at IU, people said 36 years at IU, what was the best part? And it came up in the interview this morning. And the best part of the job there was the many students that crossed my path. As Fred Ebbs used to tell me, and you know, you have great students to work with, you look really good. And he always used to say that you can't have a zoo without animals. And I had a lot of animals. But our life together has been a journey, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. And the band profession has been a great profession to be involved in. And this literally is my 52nd year. I consider being involved in education, and I've had two fantastic tenures at two major universities, Indiana University, and I've just completed my 23rd year at the Masashino Academy of Music in Tokyo. And so I will do exactly what was told to Rostropovich when he retired, and that is they did a toast to him and said, "Have a blast to the last." That's what I intend to do. Thank you very much for this fantastic work.